Hello, everybody. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we are studying Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone's book, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, shortened to PMA. We're at the very beginning, literally chapter 1, that is titled Where the Road to Achievement Begins. And actually, the header of that chapter 1 is Meet the Most Important Living Person. This is an introduction to the concept of positive mental attitude, negative mental attitude. As I was reading and learning and reviewing this myself, I realized that it is very important for all of us to recognize the difference. What I love about this is I'm just going to read you the first paragraph. Meet the most important living person. Somewhere in this book, you will meet him. Suddenly, surprisingly, and with a shock of recognition that will change your whole life. When you do meet him, you will discover his secret. You will discover that he carries with him an invisible talisman with the initials PMA emblazoned on one side and NMA on the other. And what I liked about that is that this is something we can physically do ourselves. And I am going to encourage you. I'm doing it right now. Why? Because I have paper and pen. I take a little sticky note. And on one side, write PMA. And on the other side, write NMA. I know it sounds real simple, doesn't it? This is going to be our secret hidden talisman. Okay. Something as simple as this. Simply write it on one side. You write it. Don't buy it. You create it. You creatives out there, if you want to create something really cool like a badge or something and like share it with us, that'd be great. I'm not one. So I take my Post-it notes. PMA for positive mental attitude. NMA for negative mental attitude. So what this book is telling us in that first chapter is that, in all honesty, the most important living person is you. It is me. It is me who is reading this book. And it is me who can carry this PMA with me, this talisman. I'm going to be able to pull this out at any time for a checkpoint. I may need a reality check. I may need through a day where I'm frustrated and I'm angry or I'm upset or anything that comes with working with other people. You know how that works. But also life in general. Yes, Betsy, life in general. And I totally agree with that. I was very frustrated this morning. I used this morning. My frustration was, here I am working on editing a video. Number one, I'm not really a video editor, but because we're working in big chunks, it's easy. So I'm editing a video. I've got the program for it. And I put it to render, and it was taking way too long. I mean, way too long. It should have rendered in less than 20 minutes. It's a huge video. Should have rendered. And we were well into the 45-minute mark, and I'm just crossing my eyes, and I'm sitting at 9%, and this is a problem. Talk about frustrated. Negative mental attitude. I was frustrated. I had... I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I didn't want to throw out my computer, but I knew it was the computer. So what did I do? I sat for a moment and I actually looked at the cover of the book, which is the same as seeing PMA. See, that's my trigger, PMA. So I looked at the cover of the book and I said, whoa, wait a second. I'm getting caught up in being angry. So much so that I just wasted time being frustrated when I could have been thinking it through and saying, why is this rendering so slowly? there's a problem. Let me find the answer. And so I did. I'm going to render the video later because the answer lay in I hadn't cleaned out my hard drive, so to speak. I had a lot of temporary files that were eating up not only my hard drive memory, but were eating up my RAM because they were being being called by a couple of different programs. Oh, goodness. So what did I do? I cleaned it up. Cleanup took less than 5 minutes. Yeah, cobwebs, man. That's tomorrow. No, actually, that's it's a couple of days. Accurate thinking. So I cleaned it up. Took less than 5 minutes. Boom, I get back on my computer and say, oh, wow, this is going to be great. Now, the only reason I've put off the project is because I was running up against the deadline of being able to come on here for Morning Mindset Cafe. See, that's another reason I felt so good when I got on here. I put myself into that positive mental attitude, did a little bit of action, took care of the problem. Now I'm ready for the next thing. Clean it out, move forward. So it's powerful. I'm telling you, it's so simple. Not always easy. Just because we equate the word simple with something does not mean that it's easy, but I'm telling you, it works. So a way that it is said in the book, which I love, PMA, positive mental attitude. It's an amazing power. It has the power to attract wealth, success, happiness, and health. It has the power to repel these things, to rob you of that which makes your life worth living. Negative mental attitude. Think about that. That's how powerful this is. It is negative mental attitude that pulls other men down from the top when they've reached it. When we look at people who have achieved greatness and suddenly fallen, negative mental attitude. When we meet people who have achieved greatness, success, and they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there, and they're consistent, positive mental attitude. So I encourage you to do just as I did, to write your own little talisman. That's all it is. I use it based on the way it worked this morning. I'm going to use it as my little spot check. Where are you? Not necessarily in the middle of being frustrated. Wouldn't it be great if I could interrupt absolutely every single time I was frustrated with something and somebody annoyed me or I went down the wrong path in the project, or I got lost in a project, to be able to pull myself out right away? Be nice. But I can tell you, just by having things on my wall and on my monitor, when I glance at them, they make a difference. So why not have something as simple as PMA sitting on my monitor? I look up, I say, oh, PMA, positive mental attitude. Where am I in that? How does that look? That was, you know how, see, that was powerful to me, and that's in the first 2 paragraphs of the first chapter. That's why I'm excited about this book. Honestly, that's why. Actionable things. Now, here's an interesting story about S.B. Fuller. We're going to call him the Fuller Brush Man. S.B. Fuller is a story put in here about positive mental attitude, about PMA. And his story is that his mother told him that we are poor not because of God. It is not God's will that we are poor. I'm glancing so I get the story correct. He's one of 7 children in a verbiage from 1969. Please keep that in mind. Was one of 7 children of a Negro tenant farmer in Louisiana. Started working at the age of 5. Not unusual, actually, in today's farm world, right? By the time he was 9, he was driving mules. I can tell you there are 9-year-olds I know that help drive the tractors in the enclosed cabs. Again, not that unusual in a farming family today. The difference is, though, that these families accepted poverty as their way of life. That was their lot, and there was nothing better. Not cool. Not cool. He did have a remarkable mother, and she refused to accept the hand-to-mouth existence. She refused to accept that. She told him that we shouldn't be poor, SB, and don't ever let me hear you say that it's God's will we are poor. Now, how important is that? I'm just going to stop right there. I can tell you I know many, many, many people who have settled. They have settled for, I call this a $12 an hour mentality. I'm surrounded by it in this particular area. And they'll tell me that. They'll tell me that, well, go get a job. And because I might be annoyed or frustrated with the financial situation. The revenue isn't coming in as quickly as I'd hoped. Cash flow is kind of stagnated. Happens when you're a business owner. And I made the mistake of saying it to somebody who's not a business owner. And they'll say, well, you need to go get a job. I said, well, that's interesting. The only problem is that in order to get a job at the salary level that I want, it doesn't happen overnight. It, takes a couple months. And they'll say, well, you can go right down the road. I said, well, if I were in true need of a job, I would do that. No, you really do. There's a job opening down there. It pays $12. It's really good money. It pays $12 an hour. They don't understand it. So I don't even continue the conversation to tell them that, yes, that is a good job to start out with. Or if I'm really needing some quick cash flow, absolutely, I'll take a job. Absolutely, I would do that if it became necessary. If what I'm doing now isn't working, but $12 an hour, that's not something to aspire to with our skill level, right? And again, this is in the context of the conversation with the person I'm having it with. I'm not about to look at them and say, listen, if you want to settle at $12 an hour, even though you have a brain, and I've seen it at work, but you are willing to consider that a good job and go there for 40 hours a week and then moan and groan and piss that you don't have enough money to do the things you want to do. See, it's a good enough job because it pays the bills. That's the kind of mentality. But again, being a business owner, they're not going to understand if I talk to them and say, that's great. And sometimes that's all that this renders out to when I complete a project. But the next project, if I go at an hourly rate, it'd be $300 an hour. It's not within their realm of understanding. And that's the shame of it, because they've settled. And that's the point. You see, it's God's will. And I hear that a lot as a stopping point, not as an acceptance of what's happening right now, but as a stopping point. And that's what SB's mom was saying. She is saying literally, we are poor not because of God. We are poor because Father has never developed a desire to become rich. You see, no one in the family actually developed a desire for money, to be more. It just wasn't there. So we just accept that this is our lot in life. I think it's an important lesson, and I think it's important for me to contemplate a little bit. And I did. I thought on that a little bit. What background do I have? What were my expectations of myself? What were expectations of the family? Who in the family has moved on to making a lot of money? Who hasn't? Why? Just taking a look at it, and where's my part in it? So what ends up happening is SB Fuller decides he does want money, and he goes out and decides that the only way to do that is to sell something. Decides he's going to sell soap. So he's doing that for quite a few years, and then the opportunity arises to purchase the company that he's selling for. Now, in 6 years, he had managed to save $25,000. $25,000. We're not talking about the 2000s here, going out and selling soap. We're not talking about the 1980s. We're not talking about the 1960s. I believe we're talking in the 1940s or 50s. That's a lot of soap this man sold. And he went door to door to do it. And he saved every penny that he could. So in 6 years, he had $25,000. The company came up for sale, and he decided he wanted to buy it. So he was told, well, it's $150,000. So give us 25, get the balance of $125,000 in a 10-day period, and it's yours. The document he signed said that if he didn't get the $125,000 in that 10-day period, he would lose his deposit. All 6 years of savings, he would lose it. So he set out to raise $125,000. He went to family, he went to friends, he went to business associates, he went to customers, he went to try to get a loan. He did everything he could, and he came up with $115,000. So he's $10,000 short, and it's the night before the deadline. And he doesn't know quite what to do. He just doesn't know what to do. So he hits his knees and he prays. And essentially he says, okay, God, I am going to find somebody, and I need to find them before the break of day. And he said to himself he would drive down, he's in Chicago. So he asked God to lead him to a person who would let him have the $10,000 in time. That was part of his prayer. He said to himself he would drive down 61st Street in Chicago until he saw the first light in a business establishment. And he said, you know, God, make the light a sign indicating your answer. So he did. It was 11 o'clock at night. I want you to think about that. It's 11 o'clock at night, driving down 61st Street in Chicago, looking for a light, because surely that's somebody who's going to help him. Turns out a couple of blocks go by and he sees a light, and it's a contractor who's working late. So Fuller realizes he's going to have to be bold. And what does he do? He walks in, and he knew him slightly. He did know him slightly. It wasn't like a really good customer. It's somebody he knew in passing. So he was familiar with him, and the gentleman was familiar with S.B. Fuller. And he goes in to this contractor's office, and of course the contractor is tired, very tired. It's 11 o'clock at night, for goodness sake, still doing books for the business. And so Fuller says, how would you like to make $1,000? And the contractor says, well, of course. Well, who's going to turn that down, right? So this is what he says. This is what Fuller says. He says, then make out a check for $10,000, and when I bring it back the money, I'll bring back another $1,000 in profit. A little more to the story. In addition to the ask, he gave the contractor the names of the other people who had lent him money. I look at that as like social proof. Here's proof that I'm credible and that you can trust me with that money. Here are the list of names that are participating in helping me do this. Then he explained in great detail, now this is transparency, great detail, exactly what the business venture was. Before he left that night, he had a check for $10,000 in his pocket. Today he owns, as of 1969, he owned controlling interest not only in that company, but in 7 others. That included 4 cosmetic companies, a hosiery company, a label company, and a newspaper. And when he was asked to explore the secret of his success for this book, he said, we are poor not because of God. We are poor because Father has never developed a desire to become rich. No one in our family has ever developed a desire for anything else. So the desire just wasn't there. He had the desire. This is what he says. I'm only going to read this much more because I think it's important. You see, I knew what I wanted. I just didn't know how to get it. So I read the Bible and inspirational books for a purpose. He was looking for a purpose. And then he prayed for the knowledge to achieve objectives. 3 books played an important part in transmuting his burning desire into reality. 4, F.B. Fuller. They were S.B. Fuller, sorry. Those 3 books were the Bible, Think and Grow Rich, and The Secret of the Ages. This is what he says. When you read a book, you will recognize opportunities to help you get what you want. There's a couple of more stories in there, very similar, and then there are stories about the negative mental attitude, the other side, the lying, cheating to get there, the misery that comes, the lack of success that comes from the negative, the lack of opportunity that comes from the negative, that is clearly described in the book. So rather than get into that, you have access to the PDF. I wanted to share with you some poignant parts for me about something as simple as putting PMA to work for us. so that we can be attractive to opportunities. And I liked that it was quite simple. Here, this gentleman started with a desire, wasn't quite sure how it looked, was going to work out, but he had the desire. He had the 3 books. And from those 3 books, he not only found his purpose, the reason why he's going to be making all this money, he also found the how, which was in Think and Grow Rich. And then the 3rd book, which I've not read, so I can't speak to the 3rd book. If you've read it, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Certainly one that I'll add, The Secret of the Ages. Combination of those 3, he came up with the plan. He got motivated and kept going. Seat is open. Anybody wants to jump in and talk about positive mental attitude? Anything related to what I just talked about? Anything strike you about PMA versus NMA? Oh, love to hear your thoughts on that. And comment section, spend time on the solution rather than the problem. Definitely adds positive mental attitude. And Betsy's saying what we tell ourselves is what will be or what is. Why not tell a positive story? Exactly. Bingo. You nailed it. Now, instead of bemoaning our fate that we're always here, or accepting and settling that we'll always, $12 an hour is a great pay. I might get a raise next year of a quarter. I might, but that's not what I'm going to be happy with what I have. Right? Then you're stuck. You're the one telling yourself the story. It is a difficult concept to grasp when you've never explored or looked at the effect of your thinking in the past. I'll be the first one to tell you that. It is difficult to wrap your head around. It sounds woo-woo. It doesn't make any sense. So you have to do a little work ahead of time. Hi, Will. Good morning.
Hey, Charlene. Good morning. This is a great topic. I love that you're going to work on this book. I'm so excited about it as well. Yes, I got motivation to read this book again and really dive into each chapter as we go through it. So I know it's an awesome book, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, this is a great topic. I was thinking about the subject of accurate thinking this morning, right? I've been, listening and writing about it. And this really goes to that because he's talking about, okay, first, well, for what's his name? The guy
S.B. Fuller.
S.B. Fuller. Yeah, first he had to recognize that he could do something different, right? That's what his mother told him, right? His mother said, we're just poor just because your dad never tried to do anything else, and so if you want to do something else, you can do it. So he's like, okay, so now I know I can. Now I got to figure out how, right? And the first step that we are talking about here is the I can. This is part of my book and everything. I'm trying not to give it away, but anyway. So first, you got to recognize that you can do it, right? That that's that positive mental attitude. Who's this other guy? The guy that Bob Proctor listens to a lot.
Well, Bob Proctor came up with
Nightingale, Errol Nightingale. So Errol Nightingale talks a lot about attitude as well, and he talks about what is your attitude towards whatever it is that you're dealing with, and if you can adjust your attitude, you can adjust your outcome, So I'm not gonna keep on rambling because I got tons of stuff on this in my head, but that's it. It's like, okay, I can do it. That's my attitude. I know I can do it. Now it's just focusing on getting the relevant information, the facts that are going to yield me the results that I need.
Yeah, get into the how. Right. I think you're right. It has to start with I can. And that to me is the positive mental attitude. I love that he put it as a talisman. And again, anybody who's creative and can make these things look really pretty, it'd be really cool because this is all I'm doing. Did you do it?
I made one when you were talking, and what I did was basically because the top of it is sticky, so I wrote PMA on the top and NMA on the bottom, and then you fold it in half, so it's kind of like a coin, So
excellent.
And then one side says, I'll probably think of something more creative, and put it on the
It'll
wall
come.
or something.
It'll come to us. I think it's going to be fun to have it with us. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how many of you are going to remind me to look at my talisman. Here comes Betsy. Hi, Betsy.
Oh, I hope everything works for me today.
We're going to find out, aren't we?
We're going to find out, aren't we?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Is it echoey?
Oh, yes.
What's that?
No, we can hear you just fine. There might be a small delay.
Okay. Well, yay. I just want to say, well, Will, thank you for sharing all your great stuff. What you both say obviously is resonating with me. But I will say that it took me a long while. I'm 54 years old and have been on this journey fully, I'd say, for the last maybe, 5 years. But what I've come to realize is that the only thing we really can change or whatever, change or fix is our attitude. Because that's it. I mean, life happens. Shit, pardon my French, happens, Every like this morning with my coffee spilling all over the desk, I'm like, oh no, my external hard drive did what happened, But I didn't freak out. I just was like, okay, I'm gonna clean up this mess and move on. And that, that's a little thing, but that's powerful because you could get caught up in the coffee spilled on the desk, right?
Well, that could
so I was kind of like, yeah, exactly, right? So I just I don't know, I was able to let it go, but it does take practice, a lot of practice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why I do morning mindset every weekday morning. And I, it's the importance of repetition and hearing it and hearing other people, hearing exactly what you just said, is it could be plenty for me to move forward with the day. Yeah, you're right. All I have to do is say, this is what it is. Take care of the problem, shrug it off, and let's move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all it takes is that reminder that we're making it much more than what it needs to be. So hence the PMA.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's again, the simple but not easy thing, right? Because how simple.
Well, come on, we're changing our entire life. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, let me have a positive mindset, But the interesting thing is, because as you know, I'm a birth professional, and I just want to say that with all of this mindset stuff that I've been learning and practicing and sharing with everybody that will listen, that's really missing with birth in my field. I feel that there's a lot of attention paid to how you're going to do it and what does it look like and all of that, which is great and necessary, and education and all of that. However, what do you believe? What do you believe going into something? Whatever it is. But, for me, obviously that's where I'm at with my profession. So I feel like that's the missing key in everything. That's what life is about.
I'm curious if you're coming up with or have an idea for maybe a little extra program that you could put into your existing business to help with the mindset. I'm
swirling it around. I'm thinking about it a lot and writing stuff down. Yeah, okay. I'm in that stage of, okay, something's got to shift, and I'm actually in the position right now where I'm about to fully come out as the expert and professional that I am, because I've been doing this forever, and I've had that little bit of lack of confidence going on and that little bit of self-doubt, and I'm really immersed in that right now, and I definitely am going to come out with something.
Okay, you know what that is.
Yeah.
You know what that
anyway, transformation.
Wait a minute. You
Positive, negative. I know. NMA, it's on my list. Yep, PMA.
You have the talisman, my dear.
Right, right. And I make it. Yeah, yeah.
And if
I
you
got
don't,
it here.
Get us around you and stop thinking and let us think for you. How's that?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. That's dangerous. Like my son will say, look, if I can't figure out my own mind, how are you going to figure it out, right?
Yeah, well,
like when you try to figure someone else out, like where they're coming from. Well,
No, we're not going to go that deep. No, we're going to be your cheerleader. Hey, listen, you've been a professional. How many years? Really? No, don't start. Yeah. Just stop. Stop thinking. Let's just get you moving forward. You can do it. Yes. We're your cheerleaders in the background, right?
Absolutely. That's what I'm doing. No, I love it. It's just what I need. Yay.
Well, I was listening to you, Betsy, and I wanted to jump in when you were talking about, well, this is where I'm at. I'm swirling around in this kind of cloudy space where I'm not. And it's kind of like you were going where you wanted to go, and then you started going where you didn't want to go in the same conversation, right? And so it's like, okay, let's focus. And not, like I do this every morning. I have it written down. And I say who I am and what I'm going to achieve, right? And that is where I'm going. And so anytime I start to think in a negative way about what I'm doing, or it's confused, I don't know, I don't think I can do it, all this stuff, no, that reminds me, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. I read it every morning, and that gets me in the trajectory that I want to go. And I think it's a good time for you to actually develop something like that, to write it down. And so meaning that, okay, I'm still trying to learn about you, so I'm not clear on what you're doing, but I know you know what you want. Okay, I want to step out as an expert in this field. Write it down. I am an expert at such and such. I provide this service or this, empowerment to people. People pay me for it. They pay me, and I will get this certain amount of money for this service by this date. Something that simple. And read it every day, and it'll change your life. I guarantee it.
Power of declaration. Yes, I was just talking about that this morning in my writing. And well, what Charlene asked me was like what program are you developing? I mean, that's when I sort of said, well,
yeah, that was the swirling part.
I'm twirling on that. Like I have my ideas, but I haven't come out with it yet because I'm in the midst of the planning before I'm taking the
clarity.
Action.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're still in the midst of clarifying exactly what it is. You've got the inkling of the big idea, but it's not real clear. It's just an idea at this moment. So it needs to be refined a bit so that you have something to work towards, right?
Yeah, that's true. And that's what I'm in the midst of. And it's great. I mean, it's a great process of that, the whole thing of, taking the action, and it's kind of that if you don't act, nothing happens. But at the same note, when you fully come out with something maybe that's new, different, that's going to stand out from the rest, you kind of want it to be pretty clear.
That's
kind of what you do. I mean, you know what I'm saying, Charlene, right?
I do. It's not. It doesn't sound like I'm not hearing it. You're not going to do it because it's going to flop. And what I'm hearing is I can't even articulate it here. So to come out with something that's muddy and the message is mixed up and a mess, that's not going to do anybody any good.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah. Does that make sense, Will?
Yeah, and that's I guess that's where I was getting is first, you don't necessarily need to, at least this is just what I was thinking. You don't necessarily need to know everything that's in the product or in the service just right now. I think what you want to do, as I was just fooling around and gathering information, etc., is think about what is the result I want these people to have from this product or this, And you basically already told us what it is. To me, it's a mindset shift. You want people to take on this different way of thinking about what they're going, what they're doing. And so you are catalyzing, or you are, helping people with this mindset shift, and that is what you're going to do. Now, how you're going to do it, what is going to be, the 1, 2, 3 points or the day exercise or whatever, however you're going to format it, that's still in development. But what you're going to do, you can get clear on that before you get on the how you're going to do it.
Yes. Yeah, the how will trip me up every time.
Sorry, the sun's starting to come out.
Yeah, I see that. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, and that's not fair. We're about equal. I'm just north of you. Oh well.
Well, it's cloudy. The sun likes it's just breaking through, and the sun shines just for me. That's how it is.
Yes, right.
Yes, we know that's true. We know that's true.
You bring the sunshine.
Well, fantastic. So what are you going to do? So you've got your talisman written down, right?
I do. I wrote it when you said to. I followed instructions from the teacher.
You are so good about that. You are so good.
I'm such a good student. Not really. If you only knew.
Well, I only ask because honestly, in upcoming days and programs, you know, I want to see if it's working. You know, I want to know, did it work for you? This is something simple that you can take away and put to use right now. That as a reminder, if you're having difficulties shifting your thinking from that negative, from the, you know, the red ring party, sometimes pity pot, the you know, from
the committee,
from the committee, or even from, you know, I'm in an environment where everybody is settling and I don't want to settle anymore. I just don't want to settle anymore. I want more. So pulling yourself out of that can be a challenge. Doesn't have to take months and months, but it's, you know, here's a little tool to help do that.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. In all of that, and speaking of challenges, and I'm just going to open this up. One of my challenges, so this may not be one of yours, I don't know, but one of my challenges has been in all of this growth and practice and learning and moving ahead and all of that, I've had to kind of like leave, I've had to leave some friends behind. You know, in other words, like they're friends, but yet because I'm in a new space in my own head, I'm having a challenging time being around that energy, for lack of a better
I've had that
term. It just, you guys in this, like,
so what happened with me is that I could simply reduce the amount of time I spend with them, so they're still friends, but now they're friends for specific things. I just don't spend as much time with them. And honestly, as I have gained new friends who I'm much more comfortable with, and I can speak what's in my head now, it matches, right? I'm around people that think like I do or are moving forward like I am. It really does make it easier to just not spend time at all with those. And it's not like I call you up, Betsy, and say, so much of my life has changed that I've decided we are no longer friends. But,
no, I haven't done that.
That's not what it is. What it is just a natural fading away because I'm spending so much more time with these new group of people, with these new friends, with this, and I feel the loss, but it's not a lot of grieving. For me, it's been more of a recognition that it really had nothing to do with them. It really doesn't. It's all about me and what I need to have around me right now. And that's where I'm going. And they wouldn't get the same benefit out of this new group of friends that I do.
So the way
thank you.
The way I like to look at it is like you're moving, and you. So there's a couple of analogies that I use. So one is for like if you're in school, right, and say you're going to one high school and you go to another high school, you still are going to be friends with your old people in your old high school, but you're naturally going to make friends with your new high school, get friends in your new high school and relate and spend more time with them. The same thing if you're living in. So the idea of Fresh Prince came. So if you're living in Philadelphia and you move to Bel Air, you know, you're naturally going to have more friends in Bel Air and spend time with your friends in Bel Air more. You know, and not that you don't like the people in Philadelphia anymore, or it's just that you're naturally going to spend less time with them. And when you're developing like you are, you move mentally and emotionally first before it happens in the real world. And so the same thing happens. You're mentally and emotionally in a different place. And so as you're there, you're going to start connecting with people who are kind of in that same space. You know, and the people who are not in that space, you're not going to connect with them just as much because you're actually in a different place. That's the way I see it.
Well, and then we have old Tim over here in today's world. Just redefine them as Facebook friends. And honestly, if you're active on something like if you are active on Facebook or Twitter, that's what happens, right? You just stop responding so much to them. You stop being a part of their circle. You're just not. You're no longer really engaging with them. That's all. So the same thing applies in real life, in face-to-face life. And it has happened to me. I've done it a few times over the years. Done it a lot, actually. Most of it was forced. Every move I ever made as a child, just so everybody knows, I went to 4 grade schools, 4 high schools, and 4 colleges due to the family moving. So it was forced on me at first. And I learned after just a few years not to make friends because you're going to leave them. Trust me, when you're leaving at 4th grade and you went to a completely different state, you just went out of country. You're 4th grade, for goodness sakes. But every single area that I lived in, I always had one person that I would be a pen pal with. And so, honestly, I did keep one friend who was willing to write letters back and forth and all of that. But I didn't seek out new ones to replace the old ones. I didn't learn that until I was in my 20s. And about then is when I made a clean break of the group that wasn't really good for me. I wasn't even 20. Was I 20? I was about 20, 19, 20-ish. I just made a clean break. I made the conscious decision that you as a group are not good for me. You as a group are cut off. Didn't tell them anything. I just cut it off. All communication. And over time, when they started coming back into my life, see, I had these others that I already had a group, right? So as these would come back and I'd run into them, I could say, hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a long time. No, I'm really busy with stuff, and I might mention what I'm busy with and they're not interested anyway. So it became a natural fade away. And that's what's happened many times, actually. Some of it because of moves, some of it a conscious effort. When I started my business, it was a conscious effort because I had to be with people who understood what it was to own a business. Because if I wasn't, I never would have succeeded in my business. Because who do I talk to? So that's been my experience.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's, it's interesting you were talking about how you grew up, and of course that affects and influences.
Oh, I'm a mess. Why do you think I'm reading books like this? I'm a mess.
I know. Well,
I was a disaster. Now I'm just a mess.
No, listen, it's like we all, have that, but we can look at it and try, look at it more objectively or say, hey, okay, that did influence me, but like, who am I now? Where am I going?
It doesn't have to.
We don't have to be our past.
That's right. It doesn't have to.
Right.
It doesn't have to have that big of an impact on me today. And it doesn't, quite honestly. Most of it doesn't. There are a few things that just are tough to shake. So I just move with it.
Oh, I know. I get it. You probably wouldn't want to be my friend if you knew me like 30 years ago. So, hey, that was I'm a different person now.
Yeah, me too. That was 30 years
right.
ago.
I was just saying.
Actually, those kind of stories make you kind of fun, if you ask me. Because I've gotten into those stories with some people, and it's like, well, that is just, we survived. We're still here.
Well, that's how I feel. That's how I feel when I look at myself 30 years ago. So I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, yeah. We did stupid stuff. We didn't get caught on some stuff. Oh, yeah.
I mean, in our 20s, in the what? Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. I was the early 80s. Whatever. You get it. But yeah, that's part of life and growth.
Exactly.
And, like you said.
But the thing, what happens is, and this is why I love books like this and Think and Grow Rich, and others, of course. What happens is we get stuck in that NMA, the negative mental attitude, the thinking that which I used to say that I am the culmination of all my experiences, which sounds really good, except when I examined that, what I meant was all the bad stuff. I never thought about the good stuff that happened, right? It was, in my mind, it sounded really profound, and everybody would talk to me and say, oh, that's just, you are so right, and then there came a time when I had to take a look at that. It was quite a while ago. And when I did, I realized all I'm even thinking about to myself is the bad stuff. I I didn't include the good stuff in the culmination of my experiences. Didn't even really. Well, it tells you how much I know. Like this much. So,
you know a lot, Charlene.
comparatively speaking, right? So I went to somebody who knew more, and she loved the cup of coffee at a kitchen table. You know, a mentor an older woman who was able to talk to me about that and say, you know, hey, just knock that out. Let's. You have some good stuff. This is the good stuff that's happened to you as well. That's why we need other people around, right? Stuck in my own head, that's what will happen. I will stick there. It'll make sense to me. It'll make complete sense to me. Mm-hmm. But if I have somebody that knows me and loves me enough, or even just likes me enough to want me to succeed and be better, they'll still, you know, kind of give me a little stop sign and say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee. And I get the reminder.
I was doing a program once, and they told me to write down all my achievements, right? Everything. And it took actually took a couple of days for me to even shift my thinking about all that I went through in life and find the parts that were there. So the same things that I was thinking about were the struggles or the failures, whatever, those same things I was thinking about were actually huge achievements were framed inside of them. I just wasn't seeing them. Because, like you said, we're just so habitual thinking in the past of like all the regrets, etc. But during that same lifespan, that same time, we've been achieving so many things. We've been making it like either surviving crazy stuff or really succeeding and, you know, and coming out at the top. And it's like, wow, you know, it's like, yeah, bad things happen, but a lot of good things happen, you know, and if we can really focus on that and anchor our awareness that, hey, we succeed all, you know, it's like a regular part of life. We just do it, you know, and so. Well, you know,
the other thing I'm going to add on to that is that in the book, honestly, in that first chapter, you know, Meet the Most Important Living Person, the first chapter is talks about looking back on those negatives and seeing with a different eye. Mm-hmm. So yes, some of those things were just really bad. Okay. And if I attach myself to those, and what I'm thinking is it was being able to survive the bad stuff is part of who I am today, right? That's that NMA, that negative mental attitude. The positive mental attitude says, I was stronger than I thought I could be. I exhibited persistence. I had a goal set and I made it through to meet that goal. It could have been just get through the situation. It could have been to succeed at something else in spite of the situation. I identified spots of courage in myself that I had no idea I had. I never looked at myself as one of courage. I'd never seen that in myself. But that's how you take today, looking back, if you're stuck, right? Mm-hmm. Let's look at it with a positive mental attitude. That's not, as you just saw, it's not brushing it over with the you know, a rainbow and a unicorn that poops rainbows. It is looking at it and saying, that was an awful time. All right. What good came out of that? And what used to hang me up is that I always thought that meant that when I got through it was the good. What they're talking about and what I have since learned is my being able to see that I showed and exhibited courage and strength and persistence. I'd set a goal and got through to the end, that I had commitment, that I had the ability to think on my feet. Those are things that are very helpful to me today. And what a way to look at that, right? That now I'm ready to look at that in its entirety. Yes, it was a bad situation. Yes, it was like this at the time. Yes, this is also what it was like and what I've taken from it. And I think that's the biggest difference between negative mental attitude and positive.
And I was just going to say, maybe no good and bad either, if we can look at it more neutrally, which, you know, is not, easy. Simple, but not easy. But for me, that really helps me a lot, especially when you're looking back.
So how do you look at it?
How was I so caught up?
Well, how do you look at it then? Because I immediately went to good and bad, right?
Right. Right, good and bad, because so like I have this, I could look at all like stuff that I've been through, done, whatever. Oh my God, that was horrible. Which, yeah, I mean, at the time, being like right immersed in it. But on the same note, I mean, it's easier, I think, later for me to say, oh, well, that was a lesson, sure. And then that brought me to this, and this never would have happened, like you said, But at the moment, we do get caught up in the, the good and the bad and the ugly. And I guess it's a practice of being an observer of our own selves in a way. And I know this might start getting...
No, you're talking about detachment. Sometimes you can detach yourself emotionally from a situation. I can do that sometimes. If I'm immediately recognize that this is not good, I am too caught up in this to be able to take a step back mentally and emotionally, so I can detach. Can't do it all the time.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you right now, I'll be the first one to tell you that if I'm in the middle of something big and you're going to tell me you need to sit and look at the lesson, I'm going to hurt you. If I'm not...
Oh, yeah. At the time, it's hard.
If I'm not ready, I'm going to practice the throwing arm. And I have good aim.
Well,
I like to do that.
With a good coach,
to do that.
Maybe.
So that's where, I'll throw it out there, because I think it is really where you can grow the most is when you can step back and see what's happening, and you can actually respond in the way that is best for you. Because if we get caught up, in the moment, it happens. But when if you can take that same view that you use to look at and pass and see the big picture and understand how things are happening. Because I love what you were saying, Betsy, about that neutrality, because the way I see it, everything is kind of like a cause and effect, that, you did things and other people did things that created a momentum, and that is what was happening. And your response to it either kept it going or changed it, and now in your present moment, if you do that, you can start to look at, say, okay, how did I get in this present moment? And why are things the way they are? It's because either I did some things in the past, or I've allowed other people to, affect my life in this way, and it's continuing to happen. Now I can change the way I'm acting, and either I can stop the momentum and think that I don't want to continue to go, or I can start shifting. But you have to have that third person kind of view to really get that, and start making those changes.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree. All right, so let me close this out on the recording side. I can keep the room open for about 45 minutes because I'd love to keep the conversation going. But I do need to close out the recording portion. So thank you, Will and Betsy, for joining me in the live stream. Thank you, those in the comment section, for adding to the conversation with your experiences and comments. And for those watching the replay, thank you for sticking with us this long. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose with purpose to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.